Hi, I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Jess. And this is Financial Progress.
Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, just want to say a little disclaimer that this is just a conversation between friends. This is not financial advice. Please seek the help of a financial professional before making any financial decisions. Welcome, Alejandra.
Welcome.
Thank you
Welcome.
guys. So happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for saying yes. So today we have a guest. Alejandra is the founder of Money Mindset Hub and the host of The Brown Way to Money. Today we're going to discuss the 5 steps you truly require to change your habits with money. But first we get into that, we want to know more about you and what's your financial progress been throughout the years.
Huh. So, l- let's start with I'm a daughter of accountants. So money was a topic that we discuss at home in a very logical, practical way, right? My dad very pragmatic, my mom more emotional with money, but it was a topic on the table. I always felt inclined to do administrative and finances. I was the kind of girl playing with invoices. My dad had the pile of invoices that he had to go through, and I would stamp them next to him, like, "Yep, this is done. This is done." So it was really a world that called me since I was very little, and I went all the way there to become a finance professional in university, and then do a postgraduate diploma in finances, Wall Street, kind of girl. I wanted to be. This is incredible just to say. I wanted to be Wall Street girl. I wanted to be on those floors and trading and doing all of that. That was until really I got to know what the financial journey I wanted to walk in was. And then until I discovered my own money burned out. So because I became a finance professional, I started to work as a finance officer in Washington, D.C. for an international organization. And within 6 months of that job, I accumulated a huge amount of debt. I was earning what I never earned in my life. I'm originally from Colombia. I moved to the US because of this job. Um, and then I accumulated a huge amount of debt in 6 months. And wasn't only that debt, what was worrying to me was the way I felt about money. I was very depressed. I was burned out. I was arriving home vomiting. Like it was such a mess only because I didn't know what was happening. Like I was quote unquote successful. I had the success that I wanted, especially for a recent grad, having such a job, earning such an amount of money. But then I was in this huge maze of debt, of not knowing where I wanted to go with my money, not knowing what I should do, and keeping up with the Joneses. I was keeping up with the happy hours, I was keeping up with the friends, I was keeping. So it was just like trying to figure who Alejandra was with money without wanting to figure who Alejandra was with money. And that was when I faced what I do now in the Money Mindset Hub and what we focus on as a person and as a platform, which is the emotional side of money. Why do we do what we do? Why do I go and spend $1,000 in a dinner when that wasn't what I wanted to do in the first place, right? Why I said at the beginning of the month, I am going to save $100, but at the end of the month, instead of saving, I am in debt, or I am spending on things that I don't even remember, which was my case. So my financial progress was um, in paper. I had everything that I had to have to be financially successful, quote unquote. I don't even know that exists anymore. Like it depends on what your definition of success is. But I had everything on paper, but in reality, and how it played out for me, for myself, was that it was a deep journey of founding who Alejandra was with money, what she wanted for herself, and how she would use this tool towards what she will create, like her vision, which I lacked for, I will say, 5 to 6 years into my life with money. I didn't have any vision, hence why all of this happen.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned that financial success could look different for everyone. So what I measure as my financial success might look different from yours.
Absolutely.
That's a great point. Yeah. So can you tell us about the 5 steps you truly require to change your habits with money?
Yes. And let me double down in that financial success
Mm,
just being for yourself, because that is really what it starts the 5 steps. That's the beginning point. Um, we have been, or let's call society, have been pushed to believe that there is one picture on how financial success looks like, and that picture more likely is going to come from a number in your bank account, or the number of experiences, or something that you can maybe open Instagram and see. But it's not like that. It's always going to change. So now that I am here living with my family, like my daughter, my definition of success right now as a mom is way different than it was perhaps 5 years ago, when I was just going all in on my business. And when I was working on DC, it was completely different. And to get to understand that no matter what your vision is, that is okay and that is perfect for you, is the first step that you need to come to terms. Financial success is not something that you're going to find outside of yourself. It's something that you have to create, like that you have to have from within you. What do you want for yourself? What experience you want to have in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years from now? Those are questions that will start changing your financial habits. And let's go into those steps. The first one is create a big vision for yourself. I don't care what anybody else is telling you that you should have. When they say you should, you need to turn around. There is nothing that you should do. But what I want you to do is to close yourself, your ears, your eyes, and what do you want? What experience do you really want to have in your life? In my case, when I was in this period of money burnt out and debt, what I wanted was to honor my great grandpa's promise. He and I were so close. And he will tell me every time before I turn 18 that when I turn 18, we will go and travel the world together. Unfortunately, he passed when I was 15. And ever since I said, I wanted to go and travel the world. That was my only goal. I want to go and travel the world because that's what we promised together since I was 5 years old or something. But I postponed that. I said, well, that's not really financial success. Like, how you gonna be financially successful if you go and travel the world? That's for backpackers. My dad used to say, that's for backpackers. So I pushed it away for majority of my professional life. But coming back to that big vision, when I was on my journey to becoming debt free, was what really made it for me. That was what helped me and supported me to change my habits. With Instead of me going into the happy hour that I didn't care with people that I didn't care, I haven't seen ever since, I will really sit down and start looking at the magazines and, oh, this is the place that my grandpa used to talk about that we were going. I wonder how it is. I wonder what they eat, what we could do. I would imagine what if he was alive, what would have been doing on that place. And that gave me the motivation to just stay at home and cook something for myself, or watch TVs, or just call my friends, my real friends that they didn't needed to go to the happy hour, and come home and just spend the night like that. But it was because I had that big vision. I decided that after that I was going to travel the world. And so I did. Now I'm here in Amsterdam, but 2 years ago I was in New Zealand, living in New Zealand. So it's just like, what do you want for yourself? No matter what else other people say, what do you want and what matters to you? So that's the first step. The second step is, and this is a bit deeper, but I want you to take it one day at a time. The second step, and this is part of my framework, the Brown framework towards financial independence, is remember but not relive. And it talks about financial trauma. If you have not heard about financial trauma, that's okay. Not many people has, but we all have it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We all have experienced some kind of negative thing with money. We have seen people struggle with money. We have heard people that struggle with money. We have experiences firsthand. And as Latinos, especially as a Black Latina, I carry a lot of generational financial trauma. I carry what happened historically, but also how to protect themselves. We have carried the understandings and uses of money. So if you go to my family, perhaps not my mom because she's in this journey of healing your generational financial trauma with me, but if you go to my grandmother or my great grandmother is still alive, um, she will tell you that money is the worst thing that happened to them.
Wow.
She will tell you that hold on to your money as much as you can because it doesn't come often. And when it comes with bad intentions. We have a lot of trauma that we have to go through in order for us to fulfill that vision. And this step is a call to action to not take everything that you see, not every belief, not every advice, not every suggestion as truth, but to question, why is this belief coming? So in the case of my grandma, well, you need to, like, I need to place her growing up on the what my grandma is 98 years old, growing
Wow.
up, getting married at 12 years old,
Whoa.
having
So,
right, having
Wow.
12
That's young.
kids.
Wow.
Because that was what it was normal back then. So
mhm,
it was like marrying a guy that could be your dad, having 12 kids, and then having to provide for them. But the moment that everything changed, because at that time in Colombia, it was pretty much an old neighborhood, right? So people will exchange things, and everything was more based into neighbors doing favors for you instead of really money. But once everything changed and once the economy has developed, they saw the necessity of more money and really trading their time for money, way more than they used to. So that came with maybe my great grandpa not being at home most of the time, or that came with my uncles having to go and find a job that they didn't have to before. So for her context, money came with a high price, which was quote unquote losing their time with the husband or the kids or whatever, right? I had to understand that context so that I don't take for granted that when money comes, it's always with bad intentions, which is easier to believe, right? If something bad happens to you with money, it's like, oh yeah, my grandma used to say money comes with bad intentions, it must be true. When you don't address that trauma, what happens is that your habits continue to repeat in itself. So habits are on top of the beliefs. Beliefs comes first, ideas comes before the beliefs, then comes the habit. If you don't change the belief and if you don't filter the ideas, your habits are going to continue showing up just as they are showing up now. So you guys give me an example of what, like, let's say a goal of somebody, some listener will be saving money, retirement. What would that goal be?
Let's say, I feel like we get more of either wanting to raise a credit score or paying off debt.
Right. So let's take the credit score. That's an interesting one. So what do we know about credit score? What we believe about credit score? There is many people that I work with that believe that their self-worth equals the credit score many times, right? So if they have an 800 credit score, they are being very good with money. or if they have a 500, 600, they are very bad with money. That is a belief. Your credit score reflects certain actions that you're having when it comes to debt, and reflects the technicalities of it, that you have not properly used your credit card, perhaps that you have not diversified the type of debt. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that talks to the uses of your credit. That doesn't talk at all to your self-worth. But if the
Mm-hmm.
belief is that your self worth is tied to your credit score, then guess what is going to happen when you hit next month credit score again of 650 or 700 instead of 800? Then if you were basing that you were good with money on 800 credit score and you are not anymore, the habits that tells you that you're not good with money, then they are going to kick in subconsciously. This is not something that you can control. You become aware when it happens, but you cannot control it, because if the belief is there, then it's going to drive the whole action. And that's why it's important to neutralize that trauma and to filter those beliefs out as the second step before you do anything else. And then when it comes to understanding your big vision, clearing that financial trauma, the third step, which is, if we go to the Brown way, is the O, is owning your voice and your message with money. And how this looks like with this example of the credit score is that you cannot sit and say, I don't understand how this happened. You need to be critical and you need to own your voice with money. You gotta go to your bank statements and see what happened. Where did your money go? You need to own your voice so much that you get to understand what goes into your credit score. How is that calculated? What can you do next month to start changing the path, right? It is not a victim place. It is I am the driver. I am responsible of this. So here are the cards that I need to go through. If we have a big vision and we are not acting from autopilot, which is the trauma phase, if we are not acting from the autopilot zone, it is easier for us to own our voice with our money. It is easier for us to say, these funds are going to go to this kind of experiences. These funds are going to be to pay out debt. And it's easier for us to get curious about what do I have to do to get where I want to be. If you don't have that discernment, it is going to be very difficult to change your habits. Because here's the thing about habits, and then I'm gonna shut up so you guys can continue. I can talk forever, so just interrupt me. But here's the thing with habits: they are made for human being to survive. We couldn't survive without habits, and the reason we couldn't survive is because you have so many information going through your mind every single time that your brain's to optimize. And the way that the brain has to optimize is just to do the exactly the same that he did before. My brain is a he, so he did before, right? So the reason why habits exist is because you need to survive. So from that point of view, it is a work that you have to put on to change that chip. You're literally telling your brain, I need you to burn more calories on doing what you didn't do before. And our brain doesn't like that. It likes to keep as much calories as possible so you can survive. So if it feels like work, it's because it is work. But it is the only way that you can have to flip that script, no matter with what we are talking about, finances, health, whatever it is. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up. We're in the third step, but
Yeah, I just
Go
want
ahead,
to back
Chrissy.
up to the financial trauma and
Yes.
the beliefs that we have about money, or like what people say about money. So I know often I've heard like money is the root of all evil, and
Mm-hmm.
how does someone break free from that specific belief of like money is the root of all evil?
I would say, like, how we break with any belief, finding evidence. Do you find more evidence that when you have money, you have more options? Do you find evidence that having money will signify for you to do different and to achieve the vision that you have? Yes, right? And then, well, I will have, and I have some people that say, yes, but look what money did to my family, or look what I want you to do is to look at it from a third person perspective. Was it money that did that? Or was this like the circumstances, the situation? What was happening there exactly? And I start describing it that way. So this, I'm gonna put you a real example for one of my students, the Brown Way to Money Academy. So she is the daughter of two people that are divorced, and she saw mom and dad every time fighting over the bills that they have to pay for her. So if it was a school, it was going to be a fight. If it was something that she needed extra, and they would fight in front of her. She saw that. The reason what in her mind for a 12 years old lady was money, the reason why they were fighting. But if we see it now as an adults that understand that couples going through divorces have way more complex situations than we can understand, or what they can understand, right? If we look at it from a third perspective, do you really think that the reason why they were fighting was because of money? Or the reason that they were fighting was specifically because of her bill? I think, knowing what I know from people that
Mm-hmm.
goes through divorce, that it was a lack of understanding. It was a lack of communication. It was two people that were hurt because they used to be a couple and they were not anymore. It was something complex about the relationship. It was people being people. It had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with money. But
Right.
that was how she understood that. Now, it wasn't her job at 12 years old to understand this. But it is her job now, coming back to that third step of owning her voice with money, to understand that her parents were fighting for different situations that happened to be around money, but it was not the reason. It just happened to be around it. And if she wants, and this is the second part, if she wants to get to that big vision, she must need to understand money differently now. Because
Right.
if she continued to understand money as the thing that broke her parents apart, there is no way that she can get where she wants to be.
Yeah, and I agree with that a lot because so I came from a household um money arguments all the time. So
Right.
what I took from that is I never want to argue about money
Mm,
again. So what am I going to do differently to make sure I don't do that?
right. Right. And
Mhm.
I like how you say, what I took from is like, I don't want to argue about money again. So what can I do to make sure that doesn't happen? Right. Now,
Mhm.
what we have to do here is to really become aware, and you guys, and just like me, in the finance creators space, so we are more aware
Mhm.
of what is happening with money all the time. um Perhaps somebody listening to this episode is not, right? So what you
Mhm.
will have to do is to become aware of how everything that's happening to your life may be related to something that happened before, and how you want to flip that script, like you just said. Because
Mhm.
it's really, how do I want to flip? Yeah, I know that happened. I know my parents fight over money. I know that I don't know, my mom used to guilt me with money. I don't know, whatever is your story, it's okay to have that story. You don't want to erase that story, but how are you going to flip the script? And that's why it's so important to neutralize that financial trauma. You cannot flip the script until that emotion is neutralized. You cannot flip the script if you continue believing that money is the root of all evil, is what is
Right.
going to get you there, right? So there is an amount of beliefs as a society that we need to walk away from, but there is specific beliefs that relate to you and how you grow up and how you understood money that only you can identify and start changing that script.
Yeah, definitely. Because two people could be given the same amount of resources and they would choose to spend that differently. So if they were given $1 million each person would choose to spend it differently. And one person might choose to invest some, and one person might choose to just completely spend it all and just wow out.
Right.
So
Mhm.
it's all in behavior and how you decide to move forward with your resources.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason why, um, with the same exact context and resources, you choose differently because of the beliefs and understanding. Everything is like, what do I feel safe to? That's the ultimate goal. So if you feel safe with investing, then you're gonna go ahead and invest. If you still feel safe doing nothing, then you're gonna have that $1 million sitting there because it's safer for you to really do nothing. So coming back to understanding what money is in your life, how you relate to money, what are your beliefs, and what are your parents' beliefs, what are your grandma beliefs, what is your girlfriend boyfriend beliefs around money, because those beliefs are playing out somehow at some level with yours, and you have to become aware and change it or flip the script if those beliefs are not serving you for your big vision.
Mhm.
Yeah, super important.
So the fourth one is W. When if we are writing brown, the W stands for what is your plan, and this is where most of the financial education comes in. What is the strategy? What is your plan? You have your vision. You know, understand your beliefs. You are taking ownership of your money, where it's coming from, where it's going, and all of that. Now, what is your plan?
Mhm.
One that 800 credit score. How are you gonna get there? What is, and it's not, oh, in a month. No. When we talk about habits and neuropsychology, you not only have to have a plan for a month or for the year on how you're gonna get there, you have to have a plan for tomorrow. So tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to do this that is going to impact that is related to my goal that I want to be. And the reason for that is because the faster that you do something to change the neural pathway, it's easier for you to change the habit. So when I discovered it, I was impressed, but it's really like that. And now that I have my daughter and I see it growing, I confirm that it's truth. But if you, as a human being, if you're running very fast towards a cliff, but you don't know the cliff is there, you're gonna go all the way in and close your eyes and jump. You don't feel fear. You are not stopping in any part of the way. But if you know that there is a cliff and you start thinking, oh, but there is a cliff. What if I run too fast and I cannot stop? And all of these scenarios come to mind because that is your job. Your mind's job is to prepare you for you to survive. Of course, running off a cliff, it is not going to help that. So it is going to bombard you with information for you not to do it. Same comes with money. It is going to bombard you with information for you not to change, because changing means that you are at risk of not surviving. You have survived the way that you have deal, good or bad, right or wrong, whatever you want to do it, however you want to call it, with money up to today. I am 30 years old. Whatever I have done until today, it has me gotten to 30 years old. It has worked, right? That is survival with money. That is what your brain wants. To change that habit is going against that survival. So whatever you do, you need to do it fast, quick and just go for it. So that's why you need that plan. What is that plan that tomorrow when you wake up, today, after this, that you listen to this podcast episode, after you finish this episode, then right the next second, what can you do so that you get one step or one mini step closer to that big vision? That's how you need to think so that your habits change. Um, if you think, oh, well, I will think about it tomorrow, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen because you just have given free way for your brain to say, just stay here and we are comfy here. It doesn't matter.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely healing yourself from that financial trauma requires you to make those reconnections in your brain of, I believe this, but now I want to move towards this and how I can move forward in that direction. Like, it's so important to rewire your brain to make those connections.
Yes. And here's the thing, it is not an easy journey. It is not easy in any way because you're gonna face beliefs that run through your family, run through your friends, run through what you know to be safe, your circle, right? And when you do that, people starts to get triggered and you get triggered. But it's important for you to hold on into that big vision so much that you can go through that. And coming back to my story on my debt-free journey, when I started to do this, I lost most of the people that I hung out with at that time. I had to say no to many of the things that I was used to do with my parents, or I had to say no to perhaps going on little trips or sending money for X, Y, and Z. I had to put some boundaries, and it didn't feel good. And sometimes it's easier to say, you know what, it doesn't matter, whatever, just do it, because it's easier to not face the thing. Again, coming back to the survival, it's easier not to face it. It's easier not to trigger what the source of love, of refuge, or you know you don't want to fight with your parents, you don't want to fight with your sister, with your brother, you don't want to fight with your best friend. You don't want them to stop talking to you or to push you away because you are not doing some of the things. And this reminds me to the TikTok trend, loud budgeting, right? That is where really comes in playing very well, loud budgeting, just to let them know what you're doing in hopes that they will understand. But this is what happens when you start changing, like when you draw that big vision and you start changing your habits and your priorities. You and going through that financial trauma, you would trigger other people, and that's okay. That means that you are doing the shifts, you are changing towards it. So just come back to knowing that at the end of the day, it's okay to see those reactions, that you're not gonna die, literally. Like, I want you to repeat yourself that you're not gonna die by changing the habit. You may feel like it. They may feel like they are losing you. But it is going to be okay. In 5 years from now, in 2 years from now, when you are experiencing what now is your big vision, you're gonna be okay. And the people that is going to be your people are going to be there. So just take a deep breath and continue.
We can relate to that
Yes,
completely.
definitely. There was a time when we were actively paying off our debt and we had to say no to a lot of things. And the people who stuck it out with us, those are the people we see now, and the people who had a problem with it, not so much, but but yeah, we supported each other as much as we could. That was good to have someone in your corner saying, I understand, and not pressuring you to do things that you didn't want to do. So it's definitely important to have those people in your corner and support your decisions.
Yeah, having an
Yeah.
accountability partner is important. And I think Chrissy and I started our journey at the same time, our debt-free journey. So we talked about it all the time to each other. If other people didn't understand, it was like, we know what we're doing. And
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is where we made it, right? We made it. Huge
But
difference.
right. And here's the thing, find people that will relate to that, right? It's like when you're looking to the right, you can only see what is on the right. When you start
Mhm.
seeing other parts, center right, center left, left, you see that there are more things to see. And
Mhm.
it's scary because one of the things, and I told you guys I travel the world now. I've been traveling for, I left home when I was 19. Oh my goodness, 10 years.
Wow.
11 years
Oh,
now.
nice.
11 years now, right? I've been traveling. One thing that traveling really teaches you is that it's okay not to know where you're going to go next. When I go to the airport, I have no control over anything. I have no control over the airline. I have no control. Like, I think I have the control. Like, you think you board pass, but no, you don't. So that's the first introduction to letting go of what the next thing is going to be and focusing on what do you want. I want to get to my
Mhm.
destination, right? And when I get to my destination, I would think, what do I want to do here? And I'm open to the different options. Traveling, if you guys have not traveled, you, like the listener, I encourage you to start doing, because there are so many wisdom that you can find on traveling. Really dropping the fear of letting go and doing something different is one of them. Personally, for myself, I think I couldn't have done half of the things that I do, like having the podcast, having the platform, writing, being a mom, being a friend, a daughter, a wife, everything, if I didn't travel, because there's so many things that you have to let go, and there's so many things that you have to be flexible and adapt, that traveling, it just puts you there.
Okay.
When I was in a 9 to 5, I traveled.
Mhm.
I went to work remotely, because I took an opportunity to study in New Zealand, and that's how I moved to New Zealand while I was working remotely. But with my business, I travel because of, vacations, leisure. I Every weekend I like to travel. In general, I just have an itch to go
Yeah.
and visit. Yes.
What's your next destination?
Well, I'm going to Colombia for Christmas. It's the first time
Nice.
my dad is going to see my daughter, so that's gonna be nice.
Oh. Oh.
And then Colombia, and then United States for an event, and then I want to do something somewhere in Asia. I'm not that clear yet, but
Okay.
yeah,
But you're gonna
it's
stay living in Amsterdam.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah. For
Okay. Okay.
the future being in next year or so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
But go ahead. Continue. Continue. Are you
Yes.
is starting step 5?
Yeah, so the step 5 is the last step. And the way I see it is our kind of responsibility with our community as a women of color, as a Latinas, as a Black people, is really to normalize being, like, normalize this path, normalize having a debt-free journey and not going out, normalize the conversations of money, normalize having success. And the reason why this helps your habits is because, again, it is safe for you to take that path. For, let's take traveling as an example. For me, traveling is my normal life. For my daughter, it is going to be the safe path to travel. It's normal just to perhaps live out of your suitcase for the next 3 months. There is nothing wrong with it. There is nothing
Mhm.
dangerous about that, right? My parents gave me the safety, the normalization that you could go ahead and put your own business, because they all have their own businesses, right? That was the normal path. So there is a responsibility, and there is gain on normalizing the path that you're walking for yourself and for others, because that will help collectively change those habits, but that also will reconfirm to your brain that it's okay to change that habit. It's okay to do differently. But of course, is the last part, because you gotta be cool with it. You gotta be okay with it. For most of us. We gotta be okay being the first ones on our families or the first ones on our communities to walk that path, because sometimes we are the first ones or we are the only ones.
Mhm.
And we just need to normalize it. And we have to be okay with it. What I remember that how this looked like for me was in 2017. That was when I started to work remotely out of New Zealand, and nobody was doing that. Working
Mhm.
remotely was like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you even work in DC when you are living literally 16 hours ahead? Like, how can you do that? Nobody saw that as the path to go, and I had to go through many steps to make it happen. But I normalized it for myself. I thought it was possible. I believe it was possible. In fact, I wouldn't have had it any other way, because my big vision and my motivation was to travel the world. I owe it to my grandpa. I owe it to myself. I wanted that. So if that didn't work out, I had to look for something that would work out. It worked out at the end, but I had to normalize it so that other people saw it as, okay, that's what she's doing. Let's see how it goes. And now this year, my mom decided to quit all of her clients, her jobs that she had, and said, well, I want to do what you do. I'm like, how is that? Like, I got to normalize it all the way to the person that was more doubtful
Mhm.
about me doing this, like
Mhm.
following those steps. It is really about understanding that this path, even though that you are
Mhm.
maybe the only one, the first one, it is your path. And when you normalize it for yourself, other people will see it and your brain will understand it as safe. So it's easier for you to change it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I
Thank you
think
so
as
much.
yeah, I think as
Yeah.
long as you understand for yourself that this is what you want to do, sometimes you have to ignore what people say or what they think about those
Mhm.
things, or about how you're living your life, because that's what you decided and you normalized it for yourself. But that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that the other person has to agree with the way you're living. So I think it's important to also,
Yeah.
think about you don't have to please everyone, and that's not your goal at all.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I think the best phrase that I always say is, I agree to disagree with you. And that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
I understand. So this is very diplomatic answer. I understand what you're saying. Um, let me sit with it. It's not gonna change my decision. It's not gonna change what I believe. All right, but I understand what you're saying. Let me sit with it, or I
Mhm.
see your point. Because most of the time people are not saying, how can you go and live in New Zealand? It's more saying like, why can I not go and live in New Zealand, right?
Mm.
uh,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it is not really a reflection of your actions. It's more like a reflection of their beliefs and their actions, and if they want to do it, why cannot they do it, right? So when you understand that, it's easier for you to say, well, I see your point. I see that you are not taking the steps that I'm taking, so I'm just gonna walk away from the conversation.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
great.
So to summarize very quickly, so we have 5 steps. Number 1 is big vision.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is remember
Relate.
but not relieve. Number 3 is owning your voice with money.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is what is your plan? And then 5, normalize.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I
Yes.
got it.
Great
Yes.
recap, Jess.
Good job.
I wanted to make sure. Thanks. So before we close out, we love to leave our audience with a financial wisdom from you.
Mhm.
What would that be?
My financial wisdom, I think I've said it throughout this
Mhm.
episode, but just close your ears and your eyes to the public and get through to what do you want? How do you want to do things? What is the voice inside of you telling you today? Don't worry about
Mhm.
tomorrow. Don't worry about 10 years from now. You're going to be fine if you start by listening to that voice today.
Perfectly said.
Perfect.
And how can our audience find you?
yes, go and listen to Brown Way to Money podcast. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or visit our website, brownway2money.com. And if you find me on Instagram, I'm a money mindset expert.
Nice. Thank you, Alejandra.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Amsterdam. We really appreciate your time. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. All right,
Love
bye,
it.
everyone.